This is a lesson on holiday plans. Now that we're in July, I'm following on from Sir's video tutorials that were on YouTube last week on the near future tense, which is called le futur proche. They were put up as an introduction to year 7, but revision also for years 8, 9 and 10 on this tense, which is saying what we're going to do. So this lesson I'm providing now is actually suitable for all year groups. So for year 7, don't be put off that the topic is holidays. I've pitched it, the vocabulary, at quite a basic lesson, so it's a pretty good introduction for you. For year 8, it's decent revision, and again, it's pitched at quite a basic level, but it's good revision of a tense that you have looked at, saying what you're going to do. For years 9 and 10, particularly year 10, it shouldn't all be too easy for you. I still think, yeah, you've done the topic of holidays. It's good revision of that theme. Why not? It's also good revision of the future proche, the near future tense for you. I mean, let's face it. I don't think anybody finds tenses easy, and we need them. Okay, let's have a look at my objectives that I've put together. I'm hoping that you're going to be able to understand some simple sentences in the future tense. Even better, be able to produce some of your own with the correct sentence starters, okay? And I'd like you to think about varying your future tense sentence starters, in fact, and focusing on a particular sort of verb, which is called an infinitive. There might be some clues there in my objectives linked to what's coming up on my starter task for you. Okay, please take a look at this starter task. I'm giving you a selection of sentences. I would like you to pause the video and have a think about that question at the top. What do they all have in common? Now, if I was in a lesson, I'd be rewarding every single acceptable answer with various raffle tickets. So have a good think, have a look. What do they all have in common? Pause the video because your answers or a bit of a discussion of me talking to myself is coming up. So I'm hoping that you noticed, and there's always somebody who gets a cheeky easy raffle ticket for saying, oh, they all begin with je, but it's a good observation. At the moment, all of my sentences do begin with je. Even better, so I'm not varying my people, I'm only talking about I at the minute, which is it's not great, but it's a brilliant start. The other thing, even better, is if you could actually have noticed that they all start with je vais, okay? They all start with je vais. And the other thing you might have noticed, which would be super, super impressive, because actually these are all, they're not all different, but there's a variety. There's allez, obviously that's the same, but there's a variety of words here. As I underline them, and I am going to underline them all, take a look at the words I'm underlining. This is the third thing really that I wanted you to have noticed, that they all have in common. Now, all the sentences start with je vais, and the second verb in each of these sentences is actually the infinitive. It's the form of the verb as we find it in a dictionary. Okay, so that is what they've got in common. Now, you had more chance of getting that if you are totally clued up on your tenses for our Key Stage 4 students, or if you watched Sir's video tutorial last week on le futur proche, where he talked you through it step by step. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next question. I haven't asked you at all to think about what they mean up until now. We've established they all start with je. Oh, in fact, they all start with je vais, and je vais is followed every time by a second verb, and that second verb is in its infinitive form. Can you remember how a verb translates when it's in the infinitive? That might help you translate what all of those sentences mean. And there is, of course, a clue in my objectives. I've talked you through that we are looking at the near future, le futur proche, today. Pause the video. Obviously, you have got an open choice here to write down all your translations, or just to try and translate them verbally and have a think. What does je vais mean? Can you remember Sir singing from the video tutorial last week? Je vais. I'm not going to torture you with the rest of the song, and in fact, We don't need to go any further because there it is. Je vais was I am going. And the infinitive verb always means to do something. And here are your answers. Okay, so you have got every single sentence there starting with je vais. No exceptions. They all start with je vais, which in English means I am going. Okay? The lovely, fantastic, wonderful news is all you need to do is shove an infinitive verb next to it. That's a really nice verb that I've used there because actually I think this is the easiest tense of the lot. Everybody agrees and disagrees on different things. I think this is I think it's the easiest because it just works. It translates word for word, and this doesn't happen very often when you're learning languages, so we need to make the most of it. So that bit I've underlined, I've circled, sorry, in blue there, the infinitive verbs all mean to do something. So, je vais, I'm going, manger, to eat, and then the extra detail at the end, du poisson. I'm going to eat fish. I'm going to eat some fish. Je vais boire de l'eau. I'm going to drink water. I'm going to drink some water. Okay. Now, depending on what level you are at, year 7, 8, 9, and 10, the little words here that I'm just pointing a yellow mustardy coloured arrow to really badly, du, de, le, en, au, du, all these what I call pesky little words in my lessons. I'm not saying they're not important because they're all part of your accuracy and your grammar, but I'd be urging for certainly year 7 not to worry about those at the moment. Even year 8, the little words are the trickiest bits, okay? So don't worry about what on earth they all mean, all right? When you're translating French into English, you usually just add the little words, you know, whatever sounds correct, what sounds good to you. When you're translating the other way around later in this session, you're not really allowed to worry so much about those little words. But remember that our sort of structure here is really quite straightforward. We are looking at je vais, I am going, followed by an infinitive to do something. The only one that I'm going to mention that's a little bit different is this one here. I'm going to put my red for danger sign. Je vais me bronzer à la plage, because you've got this extra bit. And the only reason why it's extra, a bit different, is because it's what we call a reflexive verb. And it's I'm going basically to tan me, to tan myself, yeah? I'm going to sunbathe on the beach. Now, do notice and be reminded that the infinitive verbs, in French, most infinitives do end in ER, but we also have verbs that end in RE, and there's also, I don't think we've got any on this slide actually, there are also infinitive verbs that end in IR, but they all mean to do something. So in this tense, it works really nicely. Right, moving on. Okay, so a bit of summarising now. Can you have a think about those questions that I've put up there for you to consider after the beginning of my lesson? What do all of the French phrases start with? So you might be looking at some notes you've taken now, or you might be remembering what were the first 2 words in every single one of my French sentences that I've provided you with. What tense are they all in? I really hope by now you know what tense we're focusing on today. What do they all translate as in English? There's a reason why I've put that question up there. And the third word in each sentence is the dictionary verb. Can you remember what the grammar book term is for this, or what I've referred to it as a moment ago? Have a think. Pause the video if you don't want to see your answers yet, because here they are. Okay, all of the French phrases started with, of course, je vais, which means I'm going to. The tense they're all in is the future. It's actually specifically the near future, which is le futur proche in French. They all translate as I'm going to do something. And the reason why this is really important is because there's 2 future tenses. We can either say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to drink this, I'm going to play with my friends. Or, in English as well, we can say, I will do something. But the one I'm looking at with you today is the one that means I am going to. And the correct grammar book term for the dictionary verb meaning to do something, they are called infinitive verbs. Okay, let's move on. So just before I move on to a bit of translation with you, not that I can check your answers, but there you go. I thought it'd be quite a good idea to just highlight there for you the pattern that I really want you to get. Now, I must point out as well, particularly for the older year groups, year 10, year 9, these are only starting with je vais, so it's in its most basic form. I'm not starting in this lesson really looking at he and she and we. We're just looking at how to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do something else. Okay, so there's the perfect translations with all the key bits highlighted, and also a reminder as well that the infinitive verb always means to do something. Right, so bullet point 1. I am going to say a French phrase now in the future tense. I would like you to either write down or say out loud the English translation and just test yourself. We're just going to do 3 of these, and of course I will give you the answers, and you can figure out as you go along how well you are understanding this near future tense. Okay, so if I say je vais manger des frites, I'm hoping that you'll be saying out loud or writing down on a whiteboard or a piece of paper, I'm going to eat chips. So a reminder for you there of the vocabulary weirdism between frites meaning chips. Okay, you have to think American, you have to think fries, so chips. Right then, oh, just to draw your attention at the bottom, if you need to, absolutely fine. You might want to look at your notes, and don't forget that you can look bits of vocab or anything up in a dictionary or an online dictionary, because you have the luxury of being able to pause the video. Number 1, what is, please, in English, je vais aller en Allemagne? And again, je vais aller en Allemagne. And the answer is, pause it if you're not ready, I'm going to go to Germany. Number 2, the English for je vais jouer aux échecs. Again, je vais jouer aux échecs. Pause it if you're still looking vocab up. I imagine you might want to look up échec. It is, I'm going to play chess. Number 3, last one French into English. Je vais regarder un film d'action. And again, je vais regarder un film d'action. It is, I'm going to watch an action film. Okay, second bullet point, please, other way around. I'm going to say an English phrase starting with I'm going to. And I would like you to try and say or write, or a mixture of the two, the French, and see how well you can produce some of these simple near future sentences. Okay, number 1. And just have a look at the example there. If I say I'm going to travel by train, I would like you to write down je vais voyager en train. Now, particularly here, you probably want to have a sneaky look at your notes to help you with some verbs, because I will be using some verbs that were from the starter list. Okay, right, so how do you say I am going to go to France? Not I'm going to travel to France, I'm going to go to France. And your answer is je vais aller en France. So if you look back at your starter list, you'd see that I just changed the country, because you've got a couple on there saying I'm going to go to Spain, I'm going to go to the USA. So I just changed the extra detail at the end. So we're adapting what we've got. So try another one. Number 2, I'm going to eat chicken. Number 2, I'm going to eat chicken. Your answer is je vais manger du poulet. Je vais manger du poulet. A horrible memory technique to remember that chicken is poulet, and I always say to my classes, think chicken poo. Le poulet. And the last one, please, English into French. Can you say out loud, write the French for I am going to drink orange juice? I'm going to drink orange juice is Je vais boire du jus d'orange. Je vais boire du jus d'orange. The important bit that we are looking at, it's not really the vocab at the end of those translations. It's this bit here. Je vais, followed by the infinitive. Right, we'll go do a listening. So, can you please pause the video and take a moment to make a copy of that grid? You're going to hear 3 people speaking about activities they're going to do, food and drink they're going to consume, and they're going to give some opinions. Okay, now whilst you're copying that out, or before you pause the video, just a reminder to have a think how you're going to add your answers to that comprehension grid, the answer grid. You're going to add your answers in English, please, because your headings are in English and you stick to the same language as your question. Okay, the other thing is you don't need to be answering in full sentences, yes, because it's we're checking your listening and we're not checking your full sentence grammar at this point. So single item, so food and drink, if it's burger and chips, you don't have to write she is going to eat. Note form, English. Okay, so I'm going to make a start with person 1. So this is just number 1. I'm going to read out the whole text for this bit here, just so you know what you're listening out for. Person 1, can you write down the English for the activity or activities that's going to be done, the food and drink that's going to be consumed, and any opinions, all right? And then I'll go through the answers with number 1 with you. Let's go. Numéro 1. Je vais jouer au foot et je vais faire du cyclisme. Après le foot, avec mes copains, j'ai l'intention de manger un hamburger au McDo et boire du coca. Ça sera super. Have a pause before I read it again, because remember as well, you always hear everything twice. No more, but no less. So here we go again. Numéro 1. Je vais jouer au foot et je vais faire du cyclisme. Après le foot, avec mes copains, j'ai l'intention de manger un hamburger au McDo et boire du coca. Ça sera super. Pause the video again. Give yourself a moment to write in what you can, because here are your answers to person 1. Boom. Okay, you heard, je vais jouer au foot. I'm going to play football. You also heard, je vais faire du cyclisme. I'm going to go cycling. You heard, j'ai l'intention de manger un hamburger au McDo, boire du coca. So you heard hamburger, you heard Coke, and I added McDonald's in brackets there as a potential extra bit of information for food and drink. And you heard at the end, ça sera super. It will be super or fab. Right, let's do numbers 2 and 3. You're going to hear number 2 twice, then you're going to hear number 3 twice, and then your answers are on my next slide. Numéro 2. Moi, je vais manger des frites avec du ketchup chez mon oncle et je veux jouer aux jeux vidéo avec lui. Ça sera amusant. Je vais boire de l'eau et je voudrais manger du chocolat car c'est délicieux. Pause it if you wish before you hear it again, because it was quite quick, but again, a reminder, you can pause the video whenever you wish. Here we go again with number 2. Numéro 2. Moi, je vais manger des frites avec du ketchup chez mon oncle et je veux jouer aux jeux vidéo avec lui. Ça sera amusant. Je vais boire de l'eau et je voudrais manger du chocolat car c'est délicieux. Now, no answers yet, so if you're not ready, and I imagine you're not ready, you need to pause the video. I'm moving on to number 3. So the first reading of number 3. Numéro 3. J'espère jouer aux cartes avec ma famille chez moi et nous allons manger de la pizza ensemble. Je vais boire du lait car c'est ma boisson préférée. Je veux jouer aux cartes, mais c'est un peu ennuyeux. And you hear it again before I will reveal all of your answers for numbers 2 and 3. Okay, off we go. Numéro 3. J'espère jouer aux cartes avec ma famille chez moi. Et nous allons manger de la pizza ensemble. Je vais boire du lait car c'est ma boisson préférée. Je veux jouer aux cartes, mais c'est un peu ennuyeux. Okay, pause the video if you're not ready. Answers coming up now. There we go. There's all the responses that you could have possibly got. So just give yourself a tick for anything you've matched. Feel pretty proud with yourself with anything you've matched there. Okay. And now I'm going to move on to the next task. Okay, so your activity on this slide is actually a reading grammar task. What you need to do is you need to fill in the 6 gaps. How are we going to do it? So you might notice at a glance that those 3 small texts there are the exact text that I've just been reading out for the comprehension listening, okay? But I'm not going to read it again. So you can be filling in your gaps there using either A, your superb knowledge of French and grammar and this particular future tense in many of those gaps that I've made, or B, the answers are there for you on the right hand side. So your answers are there, however, obviously in each number you've got a choice of 3 that could make sense. So if you've been listening and following and taking good notes, I'd hope that for gap 1 here, je something jouer, you would quite easily know that the correct spelling, the correct one that you need is je vais jouer. I'm going to play football, because it's exactly what we've been learning. Okay, so please can you do the same as usual, pause the video, have a look at the options on the right, note down your answers. Be great if there's a way of printing this off or copying it out or taking a screenshot or something, and fill in those remaining 5 gaps. Do pause the video because I'm going to talk you through your answers for each one pretty much straight away. Okay, right, so the correct option for gap 2 is going to also need to be the infinitive verb. Okay, so your option for number 2, after j'ai l'intention de, I know it's a different sentence starter, but we're talking about the future tense that's talking about what we're going to do. So it should actually be manger, because that means I have the intention to eat. I intend to eat. Right, let's move on to the next gap, number 2. Je veux something au jeu vidéo. I'm going to tell you again, well done if you just made a good go at it, that it's probably going to be that infinitive verb again. It is. And this one means I want to play video games. And je veux, that phrase there before the infinitive verb, should not be new to you, because we looked at that with the jobs topic recently with year 7, saying I want to work on a building site, or I want to be a doctor, or whatever it was going to be. Okay, gap 4, je vais. So we're back to our normal future tense sentence starter. Je vais something de l'eau. And what you want is this option here, please, everybody, which means I'm going to drink water. Je vais boire de l'eau. Okay, gap 5. Completely different here, because you do not need an infinitive, because, oh, look, your infinitive is actually already there. So surely it's going to be je vais manger. I'm going to eat. Oh, allons. What could possibly go before allons? Because I've not, this one's a bit sneaky. I've moved away from je vais. Just on this one occasion, I've moved to a different person. Can you remember what is the person for which the verb ends in ONS? If you put this that I'm circling now on the answers on the right hand side, well done. It should be nous allons manger de la pizza ensemble. We are going to eat pizza together. And last gap, again, it's a bit tricky. It's moving away from the basic je vais and infinitive. In fact, we're looking at a completely different structure here. This person says here, I'm going to drink milk car c'est ma boisson. Is it ma boisson préférée, ma boisson préférée, or ma boisson préférée? Bad news, they all sound the same. Good news, only one of them can be correct. which one would it be? When I do this lesson with my actual classes face to face, most pupils get this wrong. So I'll tell you that now to reassure you. The answer is the first one. So if you got it wrong, give yourself a cross, but start thinking that all-important question, what's wrong with that? I would imagine that lots of you probably went for this one, préféré, because, oh, we're working on the infinitive verb today, so it must be. Yeah? But actually, this is not a future tense structure. What this means down here, I'm going to drink milk, it's because it's my favourite drink. Can you have a think about why it's not this word? Because these two first ones, I'm going to change my colour. These two here, préféré, préféré, ending in the accent, they both mean favourite. But the correct one is this one because of this. The word for drink is feminine, so we need the extra E. It's pretty tricky stuff, but believe me, it clicks in time with lots and lots of practice. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so here's the full text that you have been busy filling in the gaps for. Nice and neat, clean, tidy, no mistakes, full, complete 3 text coming from our listening comprehension a few exercises ago. I'm going to ask you to do a vocab identification task. Can you please find and highlight or underline or list, or however you can work it, all of the infinitive verbs in these 3 texts. So, a reminder, an infinitive verb, most of them end in ER, but there's also loads that end in IR or RE. They're the verbs you find straight from a dictionary. Another hint for you. I want you to find all of them, even if they're repeated, and once you've done that, there are 12. And if you're not ready, if you've not found all 12, which will be pretty quick, I think, actually. If you found all 12 already, well done you. If not, pause the video because here are your answers. There they are. Okay, so you've got jouer, to play, faire, to do, manger, to eat, boire, to drink. Then in the second paragraph, manger, again, to eat, jouer, again, to play, boire, to drink again, and manger, to eat again. So a lot of repetition here. Help these infinitive verbs sink in, hopefully. Paragraph 3, jouer, to play, manger, to eat, boire, to drink, and jouer, to play again. I have another challenge for you. Can you please now, if you've managed to take a screenshot and do this in a really good way, like highlighting or underlining, can you get a different colour? Or if you're listing it down on a piece of paper in your French books, your new column title or title is, well, it's the title on this slide, everybody, extra future tense sentence starters. Can you make a note of every single future tense sentence starter? Right, so I'm going to remind you, the one that you absolutely all will have straight away, hopefully without even having to think too much about it, is this one. Yeah, because that is straight from the beginning of my lesson today. That's the first one. I'd like you to list every single one, even if they're repeated again. So you're going to find je vais more than once because that's the most common one. I'm going to play football and I'm going to go cycling. There's another one. Yeah, can you please make a note of all of them? They are not all je vais because there's actually some variety here of phrases that you can put in front of an infinitive verb, but they're all future tenses. They just mean different things slightly. Okay, have a go, make a list, make a highlight, and here are your answers. Right, so now we know you've got your infinitive verb, guys, that are just in green. In bold print, green and underlined are all your different future tense sentence starters that you've got in these 3 texts. I'm going to talk you through what they mean, but a reminder, the infinitive verb means to do something. So, first one, je vais jouer, I'm going to play. Next one, je vais faire, I'm going to do. And now the third one, we have a different one. Did you remember when I went through the gap fill with you? J'ai l'intention de manger actually means I intend to eat. So, bit of variety, quite nice for you to remember different future tense sentence starters. A little smiley there. Okay, back to je vais. Je vais manger, I'm going to eat. And then we have je veux jouer. Shouldn't be new, but a reminder that that means I want to play. So another little smiley, if I can fit one in, because it's different. You get extra marks. That's terrible. You get extra marks for varying your language. Okay, we're back to je vais boire, I'm going to drink. Je voudrais manger, not new. You've met je voudrais loads and loads and loads of times. This is I would like to eat. Okay, we've still got a couple of new ones. J'espère jouer. It's not I'm going to play cards with my family, blah, blah, blah. It's I hope. I always kind of teach this by saying, what's it sound a bit like in English? Sounds a little bit like I aspire, j'espère. And if you aspire to be something like a vet or mechanic or whatever, that's what you hope to do. So I hope to play cards. Okay, next one, nous allons manger. We talked about it in the gap fill. It's we are going to eat pizza together. So we are going to do something. Je vais boire, I'm going to drink. And je veux again, je veux jouer. I want to play. Okay. I strongly suggest that you make a note of all of those different possible future tense sentence starters. I'm going, I want, I would like, I intend, I hope, we are going, and make a note that brilliant news, they're all followed by the infinitive, and you've got a perfectly structured future tense. Really quite an easy tense to click, to understand, still with a bit of practice. Okay, moving on. Right, so on this slide, I'm not going to do anything real that involves much talking to except set you a task. This slide is just to give you an idea, a structure, writing frame, if you like, of how you could write about your own future plans for the holidays. So I've got there a text that is in perfect French, obviously, and it's in this future proche, the near future. It starts with en vacances, je vais voyager en. And that means on holiday. Vacances looks a bit like vacation, yeah? So on holiday, I'm going to travel by. And then in red, what I've given you is 3 options each time. So it could be by train, by boat, by plane. Obviously, you are very welcome, and it'd be brilliant if you need to look up something independently, by taxi, by motorbike. And the next bit is ça sera super, and that will be super. If you want to say it will be exciting, then feel free to adapt what I've given you and change the adjective, okay? Je voudrais aller en Grèce, Espagne, France. I would like to go to Greece, Spain, France. Mais je vais aller en Écosse, à Londres, Pays de Galles. But I'm going to go to Scotland, London, Wales. And again, the reason I've given you 3 options in red each time is to show you that you can basically, in those gaps, put whatever you want to make the paragraph personal to you and your holiday plans. So please have a good read of that. Understand it as best as you possibly can. You'll see all of those lovely future tense sentence starters in there. So you're going to find loads of infinitives along the way, of course, because that's the structure we've looked at. And I think that's a lovely writing frame that will make it very, very possible for you to write a short written piece of what you are going to do or what you hope to do during the holidays. If you do decide to take on this challenge, then please do send your paragraphs to your French teacher, who will feed back for you. Last slide. Okay, so on this, in a normal lesson, I'd ask my students to choose a colour or a number, and that would turn one of those speech bubbles to that particular colour, and then we'd either have to translate the question it is this time, or we'd have to answer the question or whatever. I would like to use this slide with you guys, the way we're working at the minute, to check your understanding of future tense questions. Okay, because you'll notice they've all got question marks, they're all questions, and they are all in the future tense. And I'm just going to go in number order. So I'm going to click on number 1, the pink one. The question in the top right hand corner is turned pink. I'm going to say the French, qu'est-ce que tu vas jouer? I have underlined in each of the questions the infinitive verb, just to draw your attention to those. After I've said the French, I want you to pause the video, try and understand what that future tense question means, then unpause and I'll tell you your answer. That one, the pink one, number 1, means what are you going to play? Okay, right. Numéro 2, le bleu. Number 2, the blue one. There we go. Où est-ce que tu vas aller? Pause the video. Your answer is, where are you going to go? Number 3, Numéro 3, le vert. The green one there. Comment est-ce que tu vas voyager? Pause video. Your answer is, how are you going to travel? Numéro 4, le rouge. Number 4, the red. Here we go. Qu'est-ce que tu vas faire le soir? That's supposed to say S-O-I-R. Qu'est-ce que tu vas faire le soir? Apologies for chopping that off at the bottom. It means, what are you going to do in the evening? Okay, number 5, the yellow. Numéro 5, jaune. Qu'est-ce que tu vas faire? Well, that's exactly the same as the red one we've just done, without the extra in the evening. So that just means what you're going to do. Numéro 6, orange. The orange one, number 6. Qu'est-ce que tu vas boire? That one means, what are you going to drink? Numéro 7, noir. Okay, the black one, number 7. Qu'est-ce que tu vas prendre pour le dîner? The answer is, what are you going to have for dinner? Now, be careful with the verb prendre. If you pause the video and went and looked that up, you might have found that it means to take, yeah? And it does, but when you're talking about transport. So I'm going to take the bus, yeah? I'm going to get the train. But with food, it just means generally to have. So what you're going to have for dinner is the best translation into good English. Number 8, purple one. Numéro 8, violet. Où est-ce que tu vas rester? So this sentence, it's the second one that started with où. So it doesn't mean what, it means where are you going to stay? Okay, number 9, brown. Numéro 9, brun. Qu'est-ce que tu vas manger? What are you going to eat? Last one, number 10, white. Tu vas aller avec qui? Translation there is you are going with who? You're going to go with who? So we'd say, who are you going to go with? Right, I'm almost going to leave you there. It's quite a long session, this one, actually, isn't it? I would like you to look at all those key questions, though. What you're going to eat, what you're going to do, what you're going to drink, what you're going to play. If you are going to write a little bit about your future tense plans for the upcoming holidays, which you all deserve hugely after the past few months, try and remember to add in as much variety and as many different verbs and actions, activities as you possibly can. Okay, I would genuinely love to read some, particularly from my earlier year groups, because it's the first time that you've done this. Bonne chance, au revoir.